And we are back with another episode of the Hockey Princess podcast. I am your host, the Hockey Princess. We have Crusty, old guy, once again. Just as a reminder, make sure to hit that like and subscribe on either Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, however you watch or listen to us ramble on a weekly basis. Also, if you are going to a game this year, please wait for the whistle. Do not get up while the puck's in play. I know we haven't been to the United Center in about a week. We were down on our Southern Florida tour. But when we come back to the United Center, February something, when we play Edmonton, please wait for the whistle. Do not get up while the puck's in play. And if you hear a girl yelling at you in section 330 because you're up while the puck's in play, guess what? It's me. Let's get into it. We've got some things to talk about. We have a big trade that happened this week. Crusty, would you like to break down said trade?
You want me to break it down?
Yes, because I was on a plane in the air. I came down, I got a text message from one of my friends saying, all the drama happens while you're on the plane. I'm like, what happened? It was a big trade.
Yes.
Not really on our end, because Kyle's a coward, but on other people's end.
No, it was a big deal on other people's ends. There had been rumors as far as Carolina looking to add before this had happened, but that was about it. The last person that I think anybody thought that would be added was Mikko Rantanen from the Colorado Avalanche, but that's who was added. So basically the whole story, from what I had heard, and this is from Friedman, so Friedman is also about the only guy that I actually completely believe as far as trade rumors and behind the scenes stuff. Our guy Frank is basically worthless, that works for the Hawks, but hey. And I guess the way Friedman broke it down is they've been in negotiations. Mikko Ranta is a UFA at the end of the year. Right now he's making like 8.7. He'll get a bump till somewhere between 12 and 16 for next year. I guess Colorado came in was stating that they would make him the highest paid winger in the league.
I'm going to pause, Crusty. Keep going. I just have to step away for a moment, but keep going.
Oh my goodness. Okay, I'll be left all by my own. I'll be quite scared and quite nervous. I can't really do this show on my own. But now look at that. You're stuck just with me. This is awful. Okay. So basically the way this went down is I believe they had meetings about a week ago, Mikko Rantanen and the Colorado Avalanche. The Avalanche had stated that they would make Mikko the highest paid winger. The highest paid winger right now is, I believe, at 11.5 or 11.4, and that's Artemi Panarin with the Rangers. I guess Mikko's camp said that wasn't good enough. One of the sticking points in all of this stuff, once you get a lot of big money people together, is the Colorado Avalanche were also looking at, they didn't want to pay anybody else on the team more than their captain. So their captain is at, I believe, 12.7. So they wanted to be under that. There was no other back and forth. Colorado made the decision that they would rather move Mikko and get stuff in return than risk more and more back and forth and to lose him to a UFA. So at that point in time, Colorado decided they had already been talking to Carolina a little bit during the off season because Nashus, who was on Carolina, had been rumored in a lot of different trades. So basically the way this broke down is they then called Carolina. Carolina said, yes, we'll take Nacious. We'll give you Nacious and Chris Drury if you give us Mikko Rantanen. And then the Blackhawks got involved, basically saying that they will take, if Carolina wants Taylor Hall, and then they'll retain money on the trade for a third round pick from Carolina. So I hope you're all staying with me. So it went from Chicago to Colorado. The swap was for some player I can't even remember, for Mikko Rantanen. And so then Mikko Rantanen was on the Hawks. And then the other half of the deal, the Hawks then traded Mikko Rantanen and Taylor Hall and retained half of Mikko Rantanen's salary, traded that to Carolina. Carolina then gave the Hawks Martin Nacious, Chris Drury, and a third round pick. Nacious and Chris Drury went to the Colorado Avalanche. The third round pick stayed with Chicago. The interesting part from the Hawks standpoint is it was their third round pick that they moved to Colorado last year. So what that means for the Hawks is they now have a second and third round draft pick if they need to use any of those to do an offer sheet. For an offer sheet, you have to have your own draft pick. So they do have the chance to offer sheet somebody if the go back is a third round pick. So that's basically the way all of this went down. Rantanen was caught completely off guard. The Colorado coach and captain Nathan MacKinnon were also caught off guard. Oh, I feel much better with my security blanket back. But that is the gist of this. This does not happen very often. Colorado has already went to the wire with Landeskog and MacKinnon before. They figured this was just business. At least that's what that's what Mikko Rantanen thought. So there you have it. Now they're in different locations. As far as my take on it now,
it also surprised our guy quite a bit, or at least according to Connor. Taylor Hall was very surprised with being dealt to Carolina.
Well, Taylor Hall shouldn't have been surprised. He even said two or 3 weeks ago that he knew he was going somewhere.
I think the last minute of it, because there was an article with Connor and he's like, yeah, he was playing soccer warm-ups with us and all of a sudden he just disappeared.
Yes, that has happened in the NHL during games. All of a sudden somebody's told to get off the ice. You won't be playing anymore. We're in the middle of a deal, which has got to be even crazier. Kyle Davidson was not going to get anything more than a third round draft pick for Hall. So basically he secured the third rounder with Hall and retention on Rantanen. Again, it's a high third round pick because it's our own.
I think my confusion is, I understand you're not going to get a ton for Taylor Hall. But I would like something for having to retain money. And I know what you're going to say. What does it matter? We have salary issues. We don't have salary issues. We're not in a state like other teams are where that's an issue. I don't care. I would like something for having to retain money.
Yeah, I don't think you would get the third on its own to retain.
No, I understood that the third was essentially for Taylor.
Right. So then you are going to get a fourth or a fifth.
For the retaining?
Yes.
Yeah, where is it, Kyle?
Yeah, and again, you got a high third. And again, you got your own third round pick back, so you can make an offer sheet to somebody. So it basically works out decently. I believe Kyle was also nervous that he'd get to the trade deadline and get jack shit for Taylor Hall. As much as your Devils guy on the podcast was screaming for him, there wasn't a lot of people screaming for him, even though he's already playing on the second line with Copenhagen and the big Svechnikov kid. So with that being said, of course, the Blackhawks then need to make it about themselves. So they've stated that they'll be going after Mikko Rantanen. Mikko Rantanen will cost 15 or 16 million a year to play for the Chicago Blackhawks. He was turning down between 12 and 13 for a hometown discount for Colorado. To go to a really bad team, you're going to be tacking on at least $2 million. So before everybody gets in a frenzy about all of this, do you want to throw that kind of cap weight to a 28-year-old power forward?
No.
I don't know. I think it's time to do whatever. If you overspend, you overspend. We'll worry about the cap later. We've got years until we have to worry about it. And it's going up. So I would still entertain the idea just because you get a really good player to play with Connor Bedard and it doesn't cost you anything. There's not a lot of big fish that come up as free agents. I believe Carolina will make a huge bid for Rantanen. He's going to play with Aho in the Four Nations in another week, and Aho is going to be constantly recruiting him. So, a surprising move by Colorado. I don't know how much this is on their new GM and how much is just Joe Sakic pulling the strings. That I am unsure and have not heard anything. This is way too big of a deal for Sakic to not be involved.
Well, because then I was seeing like people who had like seen Sakic like the day after and asked him about it, and he just went, "It's a business deal." It was just a business deal, and that's all that he's.
Oh yeah, there's no sense hatching why. There's no sense running. You're better off with short answers. I don't believe Colorado's done. I believe they'll be looking to add a little bit more. This saves them money to use at the trade deadline now. Martin Nashis is a very good hockey player, but Mikko Rantanen is a beast. He is a beast. He's at a level above Martin Nashis, whose claim to fame right now is that he goes away come playoff time. When games get hard, he's not there. Where Mikko Rantanen, man, that's an impossible guy to move. So, everybody's going to have to start to deal with the cap more and more. If they were probably worried that they'd have to go close to 14 million, they weren't going to do that. I think they had made the decision that they weren't going past McKinnon. So,
if you're Colorado, I don't know how you go past McKinnon.
Well, you do what you have to do, but you still got Langeskog on the books, and after next year, you have to back up the Brinks truck for your defenseman. That guy is going to get whatever he wants. He's the best player in the NHL. So, I'm sure that came into the thought process too, is how to keep this moving forward. Once that Makar contract starts, that's going to be, God, I gotta say 15, 16. It's just, you can't have Landeskog, another 14, 12, and then a fifth. It's just too top heavy. So
Well,
they
you end up
you
like
know, teams reach,
Toronto, where
huh?
like you end up looking like Toronto, where most of your cap is tied up in 4 forwards.
Exactly. You can point to Edmonton also. It's not the greatest business model. Is it a ballsy move by Colorado? Heck yes. Um, but you've got one of the top 5 players in the league on your team already. You have the best defenseman in the league. So again, yeah, you're still pushing all your chips in on, is it Blackwell?
Blackwood.
Blackwood. So it'll be interesting. For everybody involved, it was a really neat trade to see happen during the year with 2 Stanley Cup contenders.
Yeah.
I think this just makes Carolina a beast. They are big, they are heavy, they are fast. They're going to need another defenseman.
Yeah.
So that's about all I got on that. Everything okay on your end? Did you have technical difficulties? Anything you want to share with the class?
Yeah. Darcy was having issues with his dinner.
Oh, Darcy, issues with dinner. Okay.
Had to go deal with the cat. It's fine. Yeah. Other big thing is Miro Heiskanen potentially out. I don't know if they've announced how long or if they have a timetable. Miro Heiskanen is about to pull Mark Stone for the Dallas Stars after being hurt by Mark Stone.
It's possible. Also, Krill the Thrill is out again. And he'll be out for another 4 weeks, it looks like. So that's another big blow to Minnesota, who just keeps on keeping on anyways. They are a true success story.
For real.
I don't know if you want to talk about Pietrangelo not playing in the 4 Nations, or you want to leave that for next week?
I don't understand it.
He said, I'm banged up. I am not going to risk anything going over there. I will not be going.
Mm-hmm.
My understanding, again, from Friedman is this is treated like an all-star game, meaning if you're playing, you need to be going. But I think he's already come out and said, I'm not going. So I don't know if there's repercussions to Vegas for that or exactly how they handle that. Who knows? So, and I don't believe there's anything else NHL wise. I did like the Rasmus Anderson.
We're getting a Darcy appearance. Sorry.
Okay, a Darcy appearance. Look at that. Darcy is obviously scared and got a lot of anxiety going on. It's a Blackhawk cat, so there's it's up and down. You don't know what kind of cat you're gonna get come showtime.
That is true.
I did like Rasmus Anderson's impersonation of Tom Wilson.
Wait, what?
After he gave a little bit of a cross check to Tom Wilson, and Tom Wilson acted like he was shot. So then before the play ended, Tom Wilson gave him a shot. He waited like 3 seconds and then went, I believe even Tom Wilson was laughing towards the end of it. So for you people, Google that one up too. I don't know. You got anything else in the NHL world?
No.
Anything you want to talk about? People's placements? No. We leave all that for one of our
we'll leave that for
season shows.
Yeah. Prospect
Okay.
report.
See, I'm even giving sound effects. Wish once we get an intern, we'll have those sound effects and nice little graphics.
Starting off with our friends at University of Minnesota, 1 goal for Oliver Moore, 1 assist for Sam Renzel, uh, 2 assists for Dominic James out of University of Minnesota Duluth, 1 assist for our friend Aiden Thompson at University of Denver, 1 assist for Ryan Green this weekend for Boston University. That's no cause for concern. It was BC versus BU. It's going to be tight anyway. This was not a slam dunk weekend for Boston University. 1 assist for the Mustard out of Providence College. 2 goals for our Jack Pridham at Kitchener Rangers. 1 goal for AJ Spellacy for Windsor Spitfires. Nothing from Martin Misiak or Ty Henry out of Erie Otters, which I don't think is a huge cause for concern, but it definitely, his performance is not near as it was last year, and it's sending some flares in the back of my brain. Nothing super big, but it's definitely noticeable. And then we've got 1 goal and 1 assist for Merrick Vanaker out of Brantford Bulldogs. And then the man that Crusty is dying to talk about. We have 4 goals and 2 assists for the Lardass. Yes, Crusty.
Somebody must be taking out the garbage. I thought it might be a raccoon. Yes, the Lardass.
What are your thoughts and feelings on the Lardass? What is your prediction come April for the Lardass?
Well, come April,
What would you like?
what would I like? How old is the Lardass? Let me ask you that question first.
He's Oliver's year.
Right. So I would assume he can't go back to juniors. So the Lardass comes straight to Rockford, right? I would like to. Huh?
Do you throw him up at the big club for a game or two in the beginning just to see?
I think you stop doing that, but that depends on what you do in the offseason. If you come back with the same team, heck yes. There's no reason not to. He becomes a key piece because he's a goal scorer. I'm already figuring out Connor Bedard is a goal scorer. He's a decent facilitator, but he's a goal scorer. We need one more goal scorer. I don't know if that'll be Frank. I'm very happy with NASCAR. We'll get into that later.
Mm-hmm.
No, I think he goes to Rockford, and then fingers crossed that he just continues to find the net. Now the problem being the competition becomes more. And the other problem is what your talent level might look like at Rockford,
which we'll get to in a minute.
Ideally, maybe you tell Moore to leave after this year so he can play in Rockford with the Lardass, and you start stockpiling a little bit extra talent there. Because I don't see any path back for NASCAR or Doc, and I expect Savoie to start up with the big club next year. Unless they pick up a bunch of people that I'm not thinking they're going to. I think they're done going for any form of mid-range talent like Tavo. They'll take a swing for the fences, and if that doesn't work, that's it. But they're going to play kids because this veteran thing didn't work out so well. So that's my take on it. It's exciting. He's about the one player. There's 2 players that I'm extremely excited about. He's one of them.
Who's your other one?
My other one is Sasha. Sasha is, again, hasn't played a shit ton of complete organized hockey, this and that, and has looked fantastic. And I already know his intangibles. I already know about his toughness and everything else, so I'm very excited about him. I think he becomes a phenomenal fit with the speed and skill of this team. So those are the two guys. But I mean, the Lardass, it's just he puts the puck in the net, man. He doesn't miss with those opportunities. You even see that from the Beacon of Hope, is that sometimes he's got the way and it just drifts off. He doesn't miss. If he's got an open cage, it's in. If he's got a half open cage, it's in. So for the most part, that stuff translates. I understand that he's another small dude, so we've got to surround him again with somebody like Sasha, who's a big centerman and a big forward. But
or perhaps we don't draft number 1, and there could be a nice 6'3" centerman.
Yes, we'll save that all for another show. We will. By the time the draft gets here, we will be up and down in your bunghole about probably 5 different people. So, and everybody in Chicago hoping they don't get the first pick because they're scared they might take a defenseman.
That's me. I don't want a defenseman.
Well, as I said, I need to do a lot more reading. This is not my prospect reading time. So, but some of the stuff that I've heard about the defenseman, he might be hard to pass up.
Anyway, all right. Time to jump to Rockford. 2 games this weekend. Both losses, which is fine. First game, Rockford versus Milwaukee. Ads have the first goal. Super easy. Bjork takes it straight up the center ice, and quite literally everybody in a white jersey kind of just stands there and does nothing. So I'm not even going to put that on Weeks. I'm not even going to put that on the defense. But that's on everybody across the board. There's 5 guys that should have gotten to Anders Bjork before he gets to Weeks. Fine start, then a bit sluggish. Weeks was in net. Landon looked fantastic. This was before the Landon call-up that, in my opinion, was very overdue, but we'll get to that later when Crusty gives us a weekend report with hockey. Second game, overtime loss, Rockford Comesso's in net. Looks like now that EDM is up, you're having Core paired with Kaiser, which terrifies me. Not anything against Core. I think just both of them have similar strengths and then in reverse similar weaknesses. And those weaknesses get a lot bigger when they're paired together on the same line. And that's what concerns me. But also looking at this lineup, I just really hope that they do a giant overhaul during the offseason, which I imagine they do. Forward-wise, we talked about this a little bit when Crusty wasn't here. You have potentially 4 to 7 spots open forward-wise if you do an overhaul. Ideally, the only guys that I would like to stay out of forwards are, and I think you can pick one out of these 3, but I wouldn't be surprised if Senny, Gut Punch, or Anderson is kept just from a AHL leadership perspective. Senny is your current captain right now. I don't know if they want to change that and give it to somebody else, or if they just keep that for consistency while they're doing this rebuild. I would like 1 to 2 of those 3 guys to stay, because also, especially when the kids are struggling a little bit, they're the ones that are, they are stepping up to put the puck in the net. So I don't want to see a complete overhaul and just kids. But I think those guys, at least 1 to 2 of them need to stay. However, you have a lot of options with kids coming in. Velardis can come in. You have Ryan Green that you could sign. You get Aiden Thompson from Denver, which everybody was kind of freaking out that Kyle was in Denver. What happened? There's also a slight possibility that, he wanted to watch the kid play. Who knows? Not saying that it's a realistic thing, but logistically, he's in Colorado, and that is a possibility to have a conversation with him in person of what he wants to do. both Green and Thompson, in theory, could go back for their senior year. So they probably just want to sit down and be like, hey, this is where we're at. Where are you at? Check in, sort of thing. Dominic James is the only forward out of college that has to be signed. Otherwise, he goes to free agency. He's an option. Moore's an option. Misiak's an option. Veron's an option. Lardes is an option. And correct me if I'm wrong, but Kanserov is also an option. Or does he have one more year?
One more year.
Okay. So you have options. But ideally, I'd like to see an overhaul, with the exception of like maybe keeping Senny or Gut Punch or Joe Anderson. It also seems like on the top 6 level, they've kind of been paired with a lot of different younger kids, and it's worked well not only for them but for the younger kids. Like when Doc and NASCAR were up playing top 6 minutes in Rockford. And then defensively, you have about 3 spots that could be open. Unsure if they get rid of all 3, seeing as, and Crusty may know other names, but there's only 2 potential kids that I could see coming in defensively, and that's Renzel and Harding.
Yes. I think it would be a good idea to move Sam to Rockford next year.
He's awesome.
Well, I want his contract to start also. And just he's doing the same thing in Minnesota, and it's time to go up against men and continue the development. So as far as the 3 veterans that you talked about, I would sign all 3 of them. That gives you a nice little groove. As far as Kanserov, he will not be spending any time in Rockford.
Is that an opinion, or logistically he can't go to the AHL?
That is an opinion.
Okay.
But I guarantee part of his negotiations to sign will be that I'm not spending any time in Rockford. I plan to live in Chicago. He will have the ability to do that. If he continues to improve in the K just a little bit more from where he's at now, he's going to be able to dictate that. No, that's not a fact that he has to.
Well, and I don't understand the difference, but I know a couple of years back with Philip Roos, it was for a period of time, it was Rockford, or it was Chicago, or he had to go home.
Yes.
So I didn't know if that was similar with his age and with the KHL.
It will be similar to where I'd be shocked if that's not in his contract, that he doesn't go down. If he's coming over and going to leave the motherland, he's not going to do it to come live in Rockford, which I don't blame the guy. Nothing against Rockford either, but you're going to leave the country where you've grown up to you then say, hey, you got to do something for me. And that something is, you say I got a spot on the big club. So
right.
That's the way that'll probably shake out, which will be nice. I think he'll be ready for the NHL. He's already playing in the K. He's playing against older men, and he's got skill. So he's another one that we're just positive is going to bring us to the promised land.
Can you?
I can.
What would you say? I mean, if it's just talent, but kind of the difference between playing in the K versus playing in the AHL. Because, I mean, it's not like they're not men, because there's definitely some older guys that are in the AHL. I know that's like a substantial talent difference between like KHL and juniors, but is it just like the pure talent base between the K and the AHL? Okay.
You mean the AHL or the NHL?
The AHL.
The AHL is it's probably shit. At the end of the day, they might be close to even. Okay. But the AHL is usually younger. So, but the skill level is probably comparable. Maybe there's a little bit more skill level in the K, just because if you're becoming more skilled in the A, you usually then move on to the parent company. So it's basically you're playing against younger kids in the AHL, and then the NHL is just all of a sudden, boom, everybody's really good.
Right.
There's, it's the league's different. Even that third and fourth line players, you're going to struggle against. So
Good stuff. Good stuff. Do you have any thoughts and feelings on Rockford? I know you're going to say it's your thing.
No, I'm not going to say it's your thing. The whole Rockford report and what we expected out of Rockford is kind of all wet the bed this year, just because number one, we have somebody who's never coached. Number two, we expected a lot more out of the veterans that were signed in the big club. So your thought process is all the kids were going to marinate down there, and you wanted that long playoff run. And that's kind of gone by the wayside. So now you just want everybody to improve. Your main concern is Comesso down there. That's what you're worried about. That's who you want to make sure continues to improve. But at the beginning of the year, it was about the playoffs.
I have a question regarding Comesso.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm not concerned. I'm not going to throw out the B word or anything because I think it's far too soon. But it seems like he is having a worse year this year than last year. At what point do you become concerned with a goalie prospect?
I think it's a while. Basically, you're looking at mechanics, and the stuff that I've read as far as the mechanics is all good.
Okay.
It is what it is if you've got a terrible team in front of you. And I haven't watched a ton of Rockford, but as I said, our two top D men there, I see at the offensive end of the ice a lot more than I see at the defensive end of the ice. That poses problems for goaltenders. I don't think it won't be anything to worry about. He can marinate down there for, next year you don't even think about bringing him up. That's a done deal.
No, I assume they would start to consider it once his entry level contract has finished and he's on to his next contract.
Yes. So they'll see how next year goes. Bloom will sign, Bloom's getting himself a contract with the way he's played. So, there's the spot. If the Frenchman is healthy, I would assume they just send him down and see if anybody claims him. But he's not going to be in the picture. So there's no spot for Comesso up with the big club unless for some reason you trade Mrazek, but I think you've already missed the boat on that. You had a time when he was playing real well that you might have been able to move him for something decent. Now it's just not worth it.
Right.
So, but as far as him, no, you wouldn't be concerned until like 2 or 3 years down the road, but you'd be concerned about he's constantly overshooting. He loses his net. It's just it's all mechanical. It's way above my pay grade to talk about forwards. It's way, way, way above my pay grade to talk about goaltenders. I couldn't tell you, except for watching a game and go, it looked good there.
Right.
So, but they take a while. As we all know.
All right. Jumping to the big club.
That's right.
Crusty had a week off. I basically gave myself a week off. So I didn't watch any of this. So Crusty, the floor is yours.
The floor is
some call-ups. We have some wins, some losses, and some former coffee boy went in front of the media and spewed us a bunch of BS.
Well, we've got what, 3 games?
2.
2? Are you
Tampa,
sure?
or no, really, I'm not.
We have the Tampa loss at home, the Minnesota loss at home, and then the Tampa win last night.
Yes.
Okay. Where would you like me to start? You want me to talk about Cames or talk about Junior in his press conference?
Whatever you're feeling.
All right, let's talk about the press conference because number one, I got a nice, email that, before he was going to talk to the press, he would talk to us season ticket holders, and that was 25 minutes of my life that I'll never get back. He's not saying anything else. Basically he's saying, yeah, the veterans stink, but all the kids, everything is in place. Everything as far as our prospects is going along, which he's not wrong on. People can maybe talk about Oliver more and say, has there really been a jump in his game this year? And that's debatable. But you need to remember about prospects, they all are getting better because everybody ages out. So the prospect gets a year older and his competition usually gets a year younger. So it's a built-in progression that they are improving just with age. So don't go crazy about it. Everybody's gone nuts that we have 5 people up for the Hobie Baker. And I've seen many outlets stating that they've got 5 Hobie Baker finalists.
They're nominees.
They don't. This is the beginning part of it. There are 98 of them. Okay. The Hawks have 5, but there's 93 others. Okay. We'll find out in March. They'll narrow it down to 10. Then we can start to talk. But basically he said everything is in place, but he's talking to people that don't pay a lot of attention because, as I said, rarely does somebody not progress just because they're getting older and their usual competition is already aged out and is gone. So they're all going to improve anyways. So hold your horses on that. It's the classic, we don't know. For me, yes, I'm excited ass for Lardass and I'm excited for Sasha. But again, Sasha was the first half of the year when most college schedules are easier, and then they play in conference usually at the end of their year. Things get a little tougher. And then basically he just didn't say anything. It was a lot of that. He wasn't as smirky as he usually is, at least not on the season ticket holder one. I didn't watch the other press conference because I know it's nothing different. But basically he stated, okay, I don't care about any of the veterans. We're just here for the kids, which I'm sure all the veterans in the room just loved. I don't want to talk about him much more than that. I didn't get anything out of the press conference. I don't know if you got anything to add about it.
I didn't really listen to it.
Okay, you didn't miss
I
anything.
watched a lot of people get really excited by it. And to me, it was just the same, 10 words of bullshit that he's been spewing since he got the job.
Yes, I was going to watch the whole press conference just so I could have counted. With that being said, which I guess is still his go-to line, which he used a lot.
I think,
the whole beginning of his paragraph was all bullshit because then he goes, with that being said,
yeah,
the truth is,
I don't think much of what he said, but that's because I don't think much of what he says in general, because I don't think much of him as a GM. He is a sniveling former coffee boy that got his job because management does not care about the future of this team. And so they said it's easier to just make the interim GM permanent GM because that's what we do. And I'm Danny Wirtz and I do not care.
Well, talking like that, we're not going to get any good guests from the Blackhawks on this show. I hope you're happy.
That's fine.
No, the theme of it was we are going to build this
Organically?
with yes, organically with the kids. And I can tell you for a fact that will fail. That is Buffalo. That is Arizona. That will fail. And then I was told by many people on that whole X thing is that's the only way to build a winner. And then some smart guy came out and said, you do realize that the Florida Panthers only have 2 players that they drafted on their team right now. So their whole team was built not with the draft. So if you think you are going to be a cup contender through the draft, you are mistaken. That I can guarantee you. That's not going to happen. But again, you don't know what to believe, what not to believe. I think he'll figure it out that he's got other things to do. You've now got a bunch of draft capital. There's no room for these people. You've already staggered your huge payday with everybody. It's a shit show. You need to understand what you want to move to get what you need, and that needs to be done in the next 2 years. Again, as I like to say, done the easy part. And people can tell me, well, trading DeBrincat was hard. It really wasn't. Okay, he was going to give you what you get. Everybody was going to pay for Hagel what they paid for him. It was not a hard move. Once you decide that you're going to give yourself a 7-year runway and you answer to nobody for 7 years, it's pretty easy. So that was my other gist of it. Now we could go to the players, and we have Frank Nazar, who's looking very good. The NASCAR is looking very good, but I believe that's his only draft pick besides the Beacon of Hope. So, this team obviously is going to be built on some of Stan Bowman's picks. So that's the whole gist of Silly Man's talk. It was really silly. The only tidbit that I will say is I am unsure if Seth Jones will be a Blackhawk next year. Just because there was an opening there to let everybody know that he's not going anywhere, and he didn't use that. So I don't know what their plan is for him. I have never heard anything from Seth stating that he wants to be anywhere else. But if you get told enough by people that we don't want you here, I don't know how that looks through the whole offseason.
Then that's how 88 ends up playing for the New York Rangers.
Right. And once some of his mouthpieces on different shows start talking about what a trade with Seth Jones would look like and starting to give him the business about his play, then I start to think maybe something else will happen. Again, it would be a huge mistake from my end, just for the fact of right now, the Pickle is not playing his best hockey. And nobody's even noticing, because all anybody cares about, as long as Seth makes one turnover a game, that's all they focus in on. It's an unbelievable comforting level for these young defensemen to have Seth take all the blame. It works out really well for them. I would hold on to that. That and the fact that right now he's playing like a frigging stud. But hey, let's go to the games. Okay, we're done with KD. So then, we were on a tear where we'd gotten a point in like 3 straight games or something like that, right? Yep, we were really tearing it up. Nice home game in Tampa, or nice home game against Tampa. We got out to a lead. What do I got
And then
here?
it
Let's see.
ended.
Did we let me double check, but I believe we had a Doc first goal. Is that correct? Yes, the first goal for Colton Doc. A NASCAR with a goal. Creature with a goal. From my seat, I saw Tampa Bay kind of going through the motions, and then all of a sudden the Blackhawks had a power play. And then all of a sudden Brendan Hagel said, "That's enough of this crap." Stole the puck, threw it all the way down the ice. Then, as the pickle got the puck at the other end of the ice, went down, hit him, and took the puck away from him and set up a beautiful scoring chance. And from that point on, it was off to the races. The Blackhawks in the last 30 minutes had 5 shots on goal.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but was this Tampa Bay game when we got the most dramatic rendition of an embellishment, or was that Minnesota?
Of the embellishment. You mean the Foligno incident?
Yeah.
No, this one was where Foligno got an extra 2 minutes for yelling about it.
Okay, but then Minnesota was when he
did the whole wailing away.
Okay, can we jump to Minnesota?
I'd like to finish with
You're sorry. I didn't realize that you had things.
No, then basically they didn't get any shots on goal, so they gave up a goal with like 5-6 minutes to go and then lost like in the first minute of overtime. But everybody in the building knew it was coming.
Yeah.
At no point in time did I think the Hawks were in that game. No. Okay, on to Minnesota.
So we get this Nick Foligno. I didn't even watch this game. I just saw this clip and got so mad because I am conducting the I'm over Nick Foligno trade. As someone who is very privileged to not only grow up when I did, but also get into hockey when I did. What kind of nonsense? Johnny would never. That is something I expect from Bertuzzi or Big Rig or one of the other dumb veterans. That's not captain behavior. That is taking stupid penalties. Even if you're not the captain, you are a veteran. Show this friggin' veteran leadership that this tiny mouse of a GM has been spewing about. What was that? What was that?
Well, it was really
captain, but not my captain.
It was really pathetic because he got an extra 2 minutes during the Tampa game also. In the Tampa game, they gave up 3 goals all on the power play. 3 goals on the power play. Teravainen took one at the end of regulation, which kind of killed their chances for overtime. A pathetic play by him. I don't care how frustrated you are. It's a pretty simple rule in the NHL. You don't ever show up stripes. You want to mock and show up stripes, they're going to give you the extra 2. They do not tolerate that. You can go and call him a fucking idiot for a while, and that's fine. But you showing him up, they don't take kindly to it. For those who say, well, we kind of embellished it. Look at the beginning of the play. You see Nick Foligno's hand grabbing Krill's shoulder. That's a holding call. It's going to be a holding call every single time, especially when it's done to a superstar. When you take your whole hand off and grab him by the shoulder. Granted, he fell a little bit later in the play, but the play had already been called.
Yeah.
And for a fragile team like this, with the lead, you can't do that. You can't put them down for 4 minutes. I understand that the young penalty killers picked him up, but it was pathetic. The only other pathetic thing that I saw was the Dick 5 minutes into the game being 2 strides short of center and dumping the puck for an icing maneuver. I can't have that on my veteran guys. Well, now I can, because I don't care if any of them see the ice anymore. I'm on the complete bandwagon. Bring everybody up, because these guys don't care.
And the kids do care. I don't want to say that this weekend was a complete L, because I don't think it was in the kid department. From the little that I saw, the kids hate to lose. The veterans right now don't care if they lose or not. They don't care if they lose until April.
I'm not going to say hate to lose. I'm not going to say the veterans don't care if they win. All I know is I get 100% all the time from the kids. Their motors are constantly working. Their feet are constantly moving. And I don't get that from the veteran group.
And whether they make the right play or not, the effort is there.
Yes.
And that's what I want to see.
And that makes it much easier sitting in my seat to deal with. And it makes for a much more entertaining game.
Speaking of kids, though, we had a couple of call-ups this weekend, too.
We did. Who called up?
We got an EDM, and we got a Landon. Landon was up for a bit last year, went back down, and now he's back. Same with EDM, but EDM had a shorter stint last year. And for those who are not liking the EDM, suddenly on the EDM hate train that I really didn't know what was a thing, watch the tapes. Because
the EDM hate train's a thing?
I've seen it. I'm like, since when?
Oh, well. EDM looked good. Not great, good. But that's kind of his thing. But he's a big guy. He's going to put a body on everybody. When the Beacon of Hope got hit in the Tampa game, you'll see 38 come in, and he headlocks 2 Tampa Bay guys. Grabs them each by the head. That's what you're going to get from EDM. He's not a shiny toy, but he is a solid toy. Again, I don't know why Nolan Allen all of a sudden is riding the bench and Brody's back out there, but that is what it is. As far as Landon, we'll get to Landon in a second. I want to get to the one guy I want to talk about, who's NASCAR. As I've jokingly stated, if they would wear jerseys before games, then come March, I could see NASCAR in a green jersey, and then I think I'll be completely fine with them. We'll get all that Michigan stuff away from them. NASCAR's been as advertised. Probably his shot is iffy, but everything else, his defense is phenomenal. His size will be an issue, but I think everything else he'll be able to make up for it. He is a hounding machine. And for your listeners, you'll hear that he's fast. There's a lot of guys in the NHL that are fast. What you really need to look for is quickness. In his first 2 strides, he covers a ton of ground. His quickness is off the charts, thus making him unbelievably defensively and offensively going for breaks. Very impressed with his game. I do believe even with his small size, he could play with Connor Bedard if need be. He's just that good defensively. They'll get cycled on, but I'm very happy with his game. He's here to stay. There's no doubt about that. With the Tampa game last night, I didn't quite understand how Doc then all of a sudden sits.
That's weird.
I was told the reasoning was because Sorensen does watch this show, and he heard what I said about Doc the last time I was on. which it's now time for him to bring up his physical game. And that's what was stated. Yes, girl raising hand.
Does Sorensen also want to tell that to the vets who don't give a crap?
I think that's over.
I don't think that ever began.
It might not have begun, but from what I can tell, they're going to play. He's going to sit occasionally and try to coach the kids. I think they've washed their hands of the vets. I believe they think they're a lost cause. So it's now time to coach up and point out things to this younger group. And so that's what they're going to try to do, playing the vets a little too much, but sitting the kids and going, listen, what we want is this X, Y, and Z a little bit more from you. What you want for Doc to understand is part of his role is going to be that we need you to be kind of mean. It's a void here. I mean, the only person we have is Maroon, and half of his stuff is staged. And that guy still has a great pair of hands. I'm amazed at how well he moves the puck in tight quarters. He made a couple terrible bonehead plays throughout this 3-game stretch too, but his mitts are something. But he's going to go away. Doc needs to be that guy who's going to bring some nasty. And so I think that's the coaching point for the rest of the year. Yes, you're doing good. We need you to bring us into the fight a little bit. Mm-hmm. Okay, which I think at times you don't want to do because you're the younger player, but I think the message has been sent. We don't care about the veterans. Kids, it's your team, do whatever. And then Landon came out and has played great also. Landon is what he is. Can he be Brandon Hagel? That's a tall ask. I just don't think he's that fast. Brandon Hagel's another guy who's fast and quick as all shit. And Brandon Hagel's got some nastiness to him. So can he be that? I don't know. But as I've stated, since we've drafted him, I go back to, his time at the World Juniors when he was a third line checking role and he played it to a T and shut down Canada's top line. So, for us as fans, this is all really nice. It gives us something to watch. It gives us something to be vested in, which, let's face the facts, it's something we're looking for. I have never seen anything like I saw in that Minnesota game. We went through 2 periods of play, and we had 4 shots on goal. Now, I don't know what happened when I came back to my seat for the 3rd period. They had 5 shots on goal. I don't know how they got the other one. But when I left, there was just 4. My woman sat at the bar and watched the game in the football game for the last 2 periods. And what am I to tell her? No, you need to be in your seat paying attention to this team. I can't do that. The kids will at least hopefully make it entertaining. I think we're about done with the call-ups. The other thing that Katie talked about was, no big moves. He doesn't want to move too many more people. I don't know what he gets for Donato. If I don't get a 2nd-round pick, I'm not moving him. I just like the guy too much. And I will state that as much as I harp on the front office of the Chicago Blackhawks, they did take care of me, and they will get Ryan to sign my jersey. So kudos to the people that are taking care of that. I thought that was a class move by them. So hopefully he doesn't get traded before they come back. But if he moves, I would assume the next in line is Savoie.
To come up, right? Not to get traded.
To come up.
I was like, I gotta see this kid's debut before Kyle gives him the boot.
Again, the whole structure, everything is just kind of willy-nilly, and I think they're just going to tell the kids, Just go balls out, and whatever happens, happens. But for us as fans, that's at least going to be a little bit more entertaining than what we've been watching. Last night was a great game, but again, they won. How did they win?
With the kids.
Well, Soderblom stood on his head. This team, for the most part, only wins if the goaltender plays lights out, because they still give up so many prime chances. But Soderblom played fantastic. You know, he's making his case to be here for another 5 years, to be here at the beginning of this supposedly rise up. And hey, that's all I've got. So I'm under the impression, yes, this team will get better. It's not going to get better if we just bring the kids up next year. I need pieces. So hopefully they're able to do something. We've got talks about maybe offer sheets out to people. We'll see. A couple people you might be able to offer sheet, but with offer sheeting, you're going to have to pay a little bit more. So, but last night's game was good. Donato, of course, playing like Donato, but NASCAR played really well. And, you know, as much as at times I worry about how the Beacon of Hope can, you know, he's not going to be able to dictate the way McDavid and McKinnon do as far as zone entry. That goal of his last night
Insane.
is unbelievable. That's Patty Kane-esque, like maybe even above Patty Kane. It was unbelievable. And he just decided the heck with it. It was his second shot from that kind of thing. And he said, that top inside corner, yeah, I'm going to just put it right there. That 2 inches that I have, it's all I need. So I think I'm hoping better days are ahead, that there'll be more of the kids playing. I don't know what their game plan is for this defensive core.
I don't think they know yet, because I think there's so many other variables that they haven't seen enough of. Like, I don't know exactly essentially what Rinzel is going to be. I know he's going to be a part of that, but I think that is still very much to be determined. And I think there's things that are very much to be determined, and it's not because they aren't performing well, but because I think they're all very, very young.
Yes. And again, one of the main reasons why I do not want Seth Jones to go anywhere. I can tell everybody for a fact that contract is never going to bother us. Ever. It is never going to bother us. It is never going to be a thorn on our side where we're going to say, that's keeping us from the next level. And his insulating the rest of the younger kids is worth it. Trust me. The guy gets all the blame. It works out perfectly. I've had a little problem with the way things are in the world lately. So I found out, you know what you could go do is I just picked Twitter fights last night after the game when
I saw that.
People are still saying the guy is awful. And I just then had to go out. So I invited people to come sit next to me and watch a game, and I can point out exactly how good this guy is. No takers. I'm pretty sure these guys don't even watch the game, which I found also on that little X Twitter thing. Boy, if you've got a female profile picture, they just say you don't even watch the games. God. It's pretty funny. But a great game last night, something to build on. We've got 3 more, right?
Mm-hmm.
Before the break. So anything else? I'm outside in case anybody couldn't tell. See, this is my nice backyard. My fire has died out.
I definitely agree with the just go balls out. Because I feel like, and I'll compare it a little bit to San Jose just because they're one of the other ones that's going through a rebuild of sorts. because are they still pretty bad? Yes, but most of that fan base pretty okay with just watching Macklin Celebrini and Will Smith be Macklin Celebrini and Will Smith, regardless of the outcome? Yes. And for all those saying, oh, Connor needs a friend, Macklin has a Will, Connor needs a friend. He wears the number 14 and he's sitting in Rockford right now. Those kids are very tight.
And that's overblown. I think he's very happy to be playing with NASCAR, which is the other reason. Whether it works or not, you play them together anyways, because they're both happy. He's somebody who sees the game kind of like him, and again, he's really worked out something with Bert. There was 3 chances again with Bert right on the doorstep, so that's working. It's just come next year, we need complete overhaul of both coaching staffs, systems put in place, and then consequences for not playing within the system. It's time to teach these kids how to play NHL hockey, which a lot of it is not all this glorious stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but for this year, let's let the kids run for a little while. Let's have some fun with it. It's going to be great.
It's going to be great.
Because especially after the 4 nations, there'll be games all the time.
And on that note, just as a reminder, make sure to hit that like and subscribe on either Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, however you watch or listen to us ramble on a weekly basis. Let us know how we're doing. Write a review. Roast Crusty.
Yeah, everybody hates Crusty. Hate with them. Hate Crusty.
Take a Twitter fight with him. He'll love it.
I can't fight back. It takes me forever just to type stuff out.
That is true. That is all. And we will talk at you guys next week.